Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Background Information. We're doing a creature profile today, and as much as I'm still in the sea creatures, I've done it again. I've done the monster one for you. But as always, it will be a quote from one of the stories that they mentioned, then it would be the background information I have for them, and then a creature profile for what they're like in the Veil universe. So let's get into it. So we're doing about Longana. Wait, Maya Anima is a Longana? I thought they were like some siren or something and ate people. Quote from Reciprocity. When I was going through some of the random things looking for unique and interesting kinds of creatures to include in some of my stories, I ran across something that I ended up getting really mixed up with. As long means dragon generally in Chinese, my brain was of the opinion this was some dragon or sea serpent creature, and I initially was going to write them up as one. Hence, once more, we've got something odd amongst the sea creatures, and in truth, it's actually more similar to the Lorelei and the Lucidae, but also not menacing. So, what is a Longana? Well, it's also actually known as a Ghana or Ankwana, and though I was thinking, could this be a siren creature like the others? I found this one was a little more unique. For a start, the Longana is always seen as female, but it is deemed a fairy or sprite. I suppose you could say it's a bit like a water nymph, but it's just a little bit more complicated. In fact, some people hint that this creature might even have links to stories of water ladies like La Llorona, but it's odd because unlike most other spirits, Longana very much can be a bad thing or a very good thing. She puts me in mind of one of the Fae types in Scottish folklore in particular, but it's just a little more unique than you think as we get to it, because to start with, it's from Italian folklore, although sometimes linked to Alpine folklore, where it can be described as a watery nymph and sort of like the Lorelei there. Despite being amongst the sea creatures here, I should have just gone with this category of water creatures. She's only found in fresh water, a bit like the oceanids, but some stories say they live in coves and they always live in groups, like water nymphs. However, their looks are very unique, with some describe them as similar to a fawn with goat-like lips, which is very unusual for a water spirit, as they don't seem to have any other kind of watery looks to them. Some do say they can have half fish or half reptile aspects, etc., but these seem to be where Longana mixes with the other water nymph types. It's bizarre. It's basically a water fawn, whereas you would normally think of a fawn as like a forest creature. So the Longana are able to converse with spirits, are highly intelligent, and are said to be able to influence natural events as well as improve things like farming. It's thought in some myths that they, like some of the other river ladies, were the spirits of women who died in childbirth, and as stories hint that upsetting them could have dangerous consequences, it is easy to see where they link into other water nymphs and other nasty water ladies. Some describe their origins as women born in their amniotic sac, but either way, they were not as tied to the water as they were to phases of the moon and the spirit world. It is said a Longana can only be contacted during certain phases of the moon, and trying to call one outside that can cause trouble for everyone involved for disrupting the balance of things. However, like most Fae and water nymph types, they do have the tendency to appear attracted to human men, and pairing with them leads to strict terms and conditions. One such term is one story is that her husband must forget where she came from. He did, and they were a happy, prosperous couple because her knowledge of or abilities aided his farm to prosper. But it is said that somehow her husband seemed peeved that she'd been doing something with his farm, interfering is the term used, and he started to make fun of her for just being a foolish fellow. He'd broken the terms of their arrangement, and by making fun of where she came from, and thus his wife left him. They're exceptionally sensitive beings, then, but like some of the other water nymph types, they are fleeting as the sea is temperamental. As stories state that the Longana sit between the veil between worlds, sit where the veil between worlds is finished. Thus, in my veil universe, they are often found as guardians to each passage into the veil, and and on the right night they might let anyone pass through or reveal secrets. So here's how they are in the veil. So side neutral, created by children of Mistema and water nymphs. Created from love, but each one is born with a purpose to guard the natural passages into the veil. Created one after the creation of the veil. Physical description: all are feminine in looks, although their gender can vary. They have the legs of a goat and have green scales on them. Going up their arms and something about their form is actually rather faint and only visible in the moonlight. Abilities: they can guide someone in and out of the veil, reveal secrets of the veil, can use their abilities from their angelic aspects to give good fortune to those who respect and aid them, and to punish those that do not. They can make loving and wonderful wives and mothers if respected. Most known for guarding the veil entrances. Weaknesses: they cannot use their powers, but during whatever phase of the moon they were born into. Number: roughly speaking, there's about 5 for every veil entrance, which equates to quite a number, with there's said to be at least 1,000,000 different openings into the veil throughout the world. Well-known beings: Maya and Anima in the Fallen Archipelago. Characters and stories as above. She's in reciprocity. So, final comments. So, I messed up in giving enough water creature this time, but I hope you will forgive me for as it's certainly an interesting sort of figure. A female form, but not. I mean, that really is what got me with this one. It's like, just like, aside from Pan's nymph girlfriend turned into a reed, that was as much association with a fawn and the water as I could ever think of. So it's certainly interesting, and thank you for listening.